as well as natural art, math, literature, and local history and culture. Strawberry Hill has been educating young people and the young at heart for almost 40 years. Nestled in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, Strawberry Hill is a short 15-minute drive from Gettysburg. Our convenient location provides direct access to Michaud State Forest and hiking trails. Strawberry Hill provides recreational and educational opportunities through a variety of nature programs, special events, summer programming, along with our Explore and Play hours at the Nature Classroom. The classroom is open to the public and free of charge thanks to our generous donors and volunteers. To learn more, please visit strawberryhill.org/exploreandplay.
again, sports fans, and welcome to the chat. It is May 20th, 2025, week number 884 of Sports Chat. Well, hottest scene in sports. We covered, I think, didn't we have Derek Shelton on? And then we had Bud Black, and now I guess Brandon Hyde's got to get on that list.
He's on my
notes. Were you surprised at all by that? I mean, he seems like he did a masterful job for 7 years.
Well,
or is he just the scapegoat?
I think that's a good. I think that's a good word of putting that there. I think someone has to take the sword, and he was the one.
You lose the locker room. I've seen it as a coach. Believe me, I've heard that speech before. It's not working. You need a new voice sometimes.
They had a players only meeting. They had all you can do there, but it's just one of those seasons where they were
rah-rah's not going to get you pitching.
Yeah, for some
speeches.
People had them winning the American League, kind of contending, and what they have done the last 2 years, and where they're at right now has just been a disappointment.
Well, I mean, Santander, nobody replaced that kind of production.
And he's not really doing too much with the Blue Jays, so
Yeah.
I don't really kind of look at that angle there.
Corbin Burns, that was a big loss.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he wanted to go home. He wanted to pitch, around his area. So that's fine, but you have to find other resources there, and getting, Charlie Morton, that's on his last leg of pitching,
Charlie.
and then he has an ERA of over 6, and you signed Kyle Gibson. That project did not work. He got designated for assignment. So,
Already?
yeah, after a couple outings, and you have an ERA of 10,
Well, you know what? Sometimes things can turn around. I mean, do we ever have Jordan Romero on the hot seat?
I think he was on there a couple of
did.
times there, yeah.
And now he's lights out.
Yes.
I mean, he attacks the strike zone. He almost had an immaculate inning one time recently, although somebody did have an immaculate inning.
With I think it was the Marlins. I think Ryan Weathers, I think it was, or one of the pitchers. I'll look. I'll
I think it
dive
was,
in.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right to me, but there's some guy that's kind of been a journeyman starter for a long time, and anyway, so ejection tracker. The fans are on the edge of the seat of their seats.
Yeah, so
What's the
the
number?
ejection tracker, we are now up to, let me scroll up here, 37. 18 managers, 9 players, and 10 coaches. It makes up that
But
30.
8 more than last week.
Yes.
So it's almost
we're-
one a
we're
day.
slowly getting there.
1+ a day, getting tossed.
That picture, let me find, I just saw, that was, nope, that wasn't, yeah, it was the Marlins picture. I'm trying to get the name, and, Cal Quantrill.
That's it.
That's who it was.
Cal Quantrill, yeah.
He did it in the 4th inning.
Okay, very good. 9, if you don't know what that is, 9 pitches, 9 strikes, good morning, good afternoon, and good night,
You can have a
times 3.
few foul balls there, but not
Yeah.
more than 3.
Right, yeah, exactly. You could have 2 foul balls and a swing and a miss or a called strike. And you could do that 3 times, so you could have 6 fouls and still have an immaculate inning.
Mm-hmm.
But so what would you call it if you have like 9 swing and misses? Like a super immaculate?
Just filthy
Yeah,
immaculate
yeah.
there.
Swing and they keep track of that stuff now. How many swings and misses do you get?
Yeah, everything is all the analytics and all that.
Doesn't
there.
it? I mean, now don't look now, but the Phillies have the best record in the National League by percentage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Mets coming back to earth a little bit.
A little bit there.
Plagued by some infield defensive woes.
With Alonso, what happened on Sunday
the
with
bad throw.
the
I
bad
mean,
throw.
yeah. Well, again, use the word scapegoat. Other things go wrong too, but sometimes winning and losing, the difference is not huge. It's how you execute the basic, simple plays.
And this is kind of putting on the tee of, I'm trying to think where you're going to go with the hot seat there.
Well, we already said Brandon Hyde.
Well, the one that I'm thinking for yours is Jose Alvarado.
Oh.
He got the 80 game.
Yeah, what did he say? He didn't know what he was taking.
Usually
He thought
that's
it was a
the-
legal supplement.
That's usually the answer.
He's not eligible for the postseason.
That's
a
the
bigger
big.
hit.
That's the
Bigger
big.
hit.
Slash on that
Okay,
there.
I guess I was trying to repress it from my memory banks, but I did. That was just yesterday. I think that was announced, maybe Sunday.
I think Sunday there. Yeah, when I saw that report.
Okay, well, how about I'm putting Rob Manfred on there because there hasn't been too much blowback over this Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't heard too much, buzz about it.
Yeah, I'm just
And,
putting him on there for the sake of argument.
And
80-game suspension for Alvarado. Man, PED.
And that makes that bullpen there for the Phillies there with Romano.
That's why this here it is. April 22nd. Jordan Romero and Orion Kirkering, both on the hottest seat in sports. Aaron Nola as well. Now he's on the
IL. Which,
But the Phillies, like I said, best record in the National League. And I looked at the standings today. Probably a lot of fans couldn't guess who has the best record in all of baseball, but you know who it is because you're looking at it right now.
mm-hmm.
But if you had said that at the beginning of the year, Detroit Tigers would have the best record in all of baseball on May 20th, would you have been shocked?
I would have
I
been.
guess that number one pitcher, he's a big horse.
I probably would have been a little mildly surprised there. I guess putting it right now, the way they've been playing, they got the hitting, they got, I say, Javier Baez has been playing really great.
He used to be on the verge of greatness, then he had a couple of average years.
Yeah, more like downer season, I guess you
Yeah.
could say there. And he's really, he's been batting, on the 9 in the lineup there. Sometimes he'll bat up a little bit higher, with the lefty-righty matchups there. But he's been very impressive there. But that division itself has just been very competitive, except for the White Sox there. You had the Twins that went on a 13-game winning streak, and they're still 4.5 games back from the Twins.
Yeah.
So I always say you got to be up the 500 baseball to be, even talked about for, playoffs and all that there. And
Yeah, don't look now, but the Braves are over 500.
that's, that was the other team I was
Their
just getting rid of.
Athletics are under.
The-
Was that the high water mark? Maybe you jinxed them.
Well, they're on a 6-game losing streak, so I think I might have put the kibosh either last week or 2 weeks ago there. But
Let's see when it was, yeah.
I think it was
Copious
about
notes.
2 weeks ago. I think
A's to make playoffs, May 6th, 2025.
and that's what I said.
Still could
during-
happen.
Hey, it could, yeah. Right now the wild card teams. Let me
I mean,
see
I'm
here.
just going to say, it really doesn't mean anything at this point. They're not even a third of the way through the season, but
slowly creeping up to that 1/3
Yeah,
there, 54 games there. So right now, you look at the wild card, you got the Twins, the Royals, and the Guardians. So you got all the AL Central. The Twins and the Royals are basically tied.
as the three wild cards.
Right in that
All
same
right, all
division there. And then the teams that are looking outside, looking in, you got Houston that's a half game back, Rangers are 1 game back, Red Sox 2.5, Blue Jays 3.5, Athletics 4, Angels 4. So
Yeah, that's the beauty of the three wild card system. Listen to all those teams you just listed.
all within a 5 games.
Yeah, so you mean the White Sox are out of it?
Well, then the
And the Rockies are out of it?
the Orioles are 10 games back, and then the White Sox are 12. Looking at the National League.
So the Orioles are only 2 games ahead of the White Sox.
Currently speaking,
I'm
yes.
sorry to-
No,
I
no,
mean,
no.
when
It's
you-
it's
That's rough.
yeah. They're currently
You're right, somebody has to take the fall for that, so.
yeah, and then just kind of putting a bow on the.
Seems like he'll get another job somewhere.
I would assume, but to put a bow on the Orioles, with there's just no spark. It just seems like when they're down 1-0, they're going to lose. It's just one of those. They were up 1-0 yesterday. Then the Brewers scored a couple runs. The Orioles tied the game, but they just blew it in the bottom of the 8th. But on Friday when they were playing the Nationals, they left 15 men on base and they lost 4-3. And it's just one of those games where you have to figure out either you play small ball or you have bases loaded in the bottom of the first and you don't score a run, and then the Nationals hit a solo home run. It's just one of those where it takes 5 hits to score a run. Some crazy way. It's kind of hard to score. Have 5 hits and not score a run, but it's just putting it lightly on that there. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do at the deadline. They're going to be sellers. I don't see them
Well, they got some untouchables. Who's untouchable on that team? The young guys, the young
Yeah,
talent.
I would say if
Henderson?
Henderson, Adley, and Holiday is probably the three that you would say is untouchable. But then you look at how can you make the team better? Do you trade Cedric Mullins at the deadline? I can name like probably 10 teams that would take
Mullins.
Cedric Mullins in a heartbeat for an upgrade at the outfield. I can see Ryan Mountcastle getting traded. I can see a team that wants a first baseman. Maybe the likes of the Red Sox. They need a first baseman.
They do. I mean,
Devers.
Devers says he's not playing first. So.
And Devers has been swinging the hot bat now. I mean, he was in the hot seat, in April.
We turned his season around.
Yeah, just not on the glove wise.
No.
Yeah, so I see other pieces now. The parts that won't be traded is pitching. The pitching is towards the bottom of the league in ERA, starting ERA. But when you have the
Eflin,
he's coming back. He gave up, I think, 6 runs on Sunday there. So, it's just been the bugaboo with the pitching. And then when the pitching is half decent, the hitting is not doing anything. So it's just been one of those seasons. It wouldn't shock me, the way things are going, if they would lose 90 or even 100 games. That's a crazy.
what a turnaround. What was their high watermark in the last 3 years? What was the high win total they had?
They won 100 games, 101 games, and then you get the
Now
fall of
lose
grace
them.
of this
That's-
year. So hopefully
fall
I'm
from
wrong
grace.
on that standard there, but
yeah.
right now they are 29th in the league in run differential. They're minus 86, and the worst team that has a run differential is minus 150, and that was Rockies. And we mentioned them a couple weeks ago with their run
Phillies
differential.
play them again tonight. The Rockies hung tough for 6 or so innings.
That seems like the case for the Rockies. They hang with them a little bit there, and then they just kind of fall off the map there.
Oh, yeah.
The Rockies are 3-22 on the road and 5-17 at home.
So these interim managers, not necessarily Don Kelly, that's the guy on the Pirates, and Skeens. Mick Abel made his I'm putting him on as a shining star. A major league debut,
went toe to toe.
6 innings, shutout, didn't walk anybody, 9 strikeouts, and he got the win. I mean, Skeens. The Phillies really scratched out a run. They had I think an infield hit, and then the guy went first to third on another hit, and then nearly a ground ball double play, but Marsh just beat the throw, and Castellanos was home with the only run of the game. 1-zip.
That's been the telltale sign with Skeens. I mean, he's been pitching very stellar. I mean, he's almost, I would say, right up in the top pitchers in the league. And then you get 0 run support there. So, which brings me to my question of Skeens. Should the Pittsburgh Pirates trade him?
How much longer do they have control?
I think
2 or
till
3
like
years?
2028. They still got 4 years of control with him with arbitration and all that.
Well, they better get a hell of a lot of value because he is a revenue. When he pitches, they sell more tickets.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what with the prior guy they had this with the Yankees now. He's
Garrett Cole.
Garrett Cole,
Yeah.
thank you. Garrett Cole, same kind of thing. He was a phenom. They had control of him for a certain number of
About
years.
3-4 years, went to that playoffs.
And then I guess they got unloaded him with he didn't go free agent. They got something for him, didn't
Yeah,
they?
they trade him to the Astros, but it was basically the last year. There's been some rumors, or not rumors that he was going to trade it. There's just some speculations from other people talking about it. And you look at the Pirates, the likelihood of them signing Skeens to a long-term deal is very small and minute.
Oh, absolutely.
So-
I mean, he'll never say that, and that's just smart of him. And apparently, he's a great teammate and clubhouse guy.
But I mean, if they would trade him, the fan base for the Pirates will go, get their pitchforks and all that there. but you look at it as a a building block because you're not going anywhere with him or without him.
Yeah.
So it'd be kind of nice to get some pieces there. But I just for a contending team, what you're going to give up? You're basically giving up your farm system or at least 3 players to get Skeens, and you're basically throwing all your chips in the middle. Like,
Well,
We're-
I mean, will he hold up? He seems a little sturdier than, let's say, Strasburg and Lincecum.
yeah,
To name a couple of guys that could throw really fast, but it looked like the torque was just tearing them apart, and eventually it did. Skeens looks like he's pretty solid.
yeah, very durable. It seems like, and I think a trade like this is almost like when Juan Soto got traded to the Padres. It's something maybe to that there because of how many years he had.
Yeah. Who did the Nats get back in that deal?
I forget offhand. I got
But
to
Abrams, maybe? I
think.
mean,
C.J. Abrams
and,
and
I mean, the Nats, they got some talented players. Wood and the left fielder, Abrams, like we mentioned, but, yeah.
that was the. That was the.
I could see it just being a 2-team race, even though the Braves are kind of maybe almost on the verge of getting into it. I don't know. Has Strider done anything since he came back?
Not too much. He was on the IL a little bit ago there, so not
Yeah,
really
right.
too much
And,
with the standards of what
Acuna,
he's been looking
Ronald Acuna Jr., he's
It looks like maybe at the ending of May or going into June that he'll make an
there.
return there. So he's
assignment.
knocking on the doorstep there, but not full go there of a rehab assignment there. So you're kind of looking at that. And how about the NL West? The NL West is
I saw the Padres, or the Snakes rather, only 3 games back, and the Padres are right there with the Dodgers. That neither team is running away with it like they did statistically early on. The Giants coming down to earth. So
I will still say that this is going to be a 4-team race all the way to the bitter end. You have the Dodgers that are on a 4-game losing streak, and they just not have been playing Dodger type of baseball. They're
Yeah.
29-19, and lots of
they lost
teams
again
would take
last
that.
night.
They lost. They got swept by the Angels the first time since 2010 that they got swept by their
How's
in-state
Trout? Is
rival.
Trout healthy?
He's on the IL. So there goes our thing. If he can stay healthy and play 140 games, which that's not going to happen. But you look at that division there. The Dodgers are 29-19. The Padres 27-18. Both of those teams have lost 4 and 3 games. So that kind of brought the Giants right back in the fray there. They won that series against the Athletics, and then the D-backs, they're only 3 games back. So just the way that things are going, and I can see the Dodgers being very aggressive. They designated assignment Chris Taylor and Austin Burns, or Austin, great leadership guys there, and they're kind of bringing up the younger players. So see what happens, because you don't want to be the wild card team and go on the road in the divisional round and and play those 3 games in the wild card round.
At least it's not 1 game anymore. That was really, well, hey, you know the rules going in, so it's fair to everybody. Okay, so let's go around the divisions because we talked about the AL Central, but the NL Central, the Cubs, they are pretty formidable, and the Cardinals had their great streak. The Reds all of a sudden are hot. You see that being at a minimum a 3-team race?
I think that's going to be a 3.
I mean, the Brew Crew.
I
don't
would
know.
I would wait a little bit there for the Brewers. They're 23-25 there. They just been
A lot
kind
of people
up and
don't
down.
scare you in that lineup, I guess.
But I said at the beginning of the season I like the Reds. I wouldn't have been surprised if they won the division or make the playoffs. They're just the moves that they have. They're going to get Hunter Brown back. Their ace, he was on the IL with a groin injury, so he was out for a bit there.
You know what that is?
I got that checked off, and so that will help. They just got a sweep with their in-state rival with the Guardians, so they're right up there. Actually, their
Tito
closer.
was probably happy about that, yeah. I
Yeah,
think
a
they're
little,
knocks off the Guardians. The Guardians are kind of struggling a little bit lately, so we'll
But
see.
even with the Cardinals, with their winning streak that got them right up there, they just looked like a team that just like they were going nowhere. In the month of April, and now they're 27-21, just on the doorstep with the Cubs, and the Cubs have just been consistent, especially with their outfielder PCA. He's been right up
Yeah,
there.
the Phillies broadcast was saying, hey, this guy hasn't been around there long enough to have a cool nickname.
Yeah. Well, that's his
Peter
initiative.
Crow Armstrong,
Yep.
Pete Crow Armstrong, PCA,
Yeah. So.
better than PCB. Anyway, all right.
And then you're looking at the AL West. I look at that as no one really running away with that division.
We don't know you in Seattle. What do we know about Seattle except what Rodriguez is their centerpiece?
I think their closer is probably the best one in the league right now.
Who is it?
Nunez.
Nunez?
Yeah. Let me pull up his stats here. Yeah. Let me see here. Roster.
No news, Nunez.
Let's see here. Yeah. Andres Munez is he has 21 or 20 and 2/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 0 earned, and then 28 strikeouts. So
How many saves?
save wise, let me go over here. He is 12 saves.
Well, okay.
So
Nunez, write it down.
Yeah, so he's been right up there. I mean, clutch in the league, and you have a pitcher that has an ERA of goose eggs.
Yeah.
That it kind of reminds me of last year.
He
With,
doesn't have an earned run average.
It's
It's
nothing.
0, yeah. As
So
opposed to infinity.
when you have a closer like that, it kind of reminds me of Emmanuel Clase, with the Guardians of last year, and
For a couple of years, that
Yes.
guy was, and now he had a bad start. Maybe he's starting to get it together again.
yeah, he's starting to get back on track of where he was the last couple of seasons there. But
Well, I mean, hitters adjust to pitchers and vice versa. And like for Skeens, it seemed like everybody's like, "What's wrong with Skeens? He got hit around a couple times."
yep,
But then he goes and makes adjustments, and he really won the Phillies' respect. He just was lights out. So it's just a game of adjustments.
I'd look at that division, probably being a 3-horse battle there. I think the Athletics are coming back down to earth there. They're on that funk now of a 6-game losing streak that we mentioned before. The Rangers are, just been this up and down.
2
team
years
there.
off of the World Championship.
They're 25-23, so
They really underachieved last year, obviously. World Series hangover, call it what you want, but Bochy's still the manager?
yep.
How old is that guy?
I believe he is 72.
Okay.
I mean,
He's pretty young. I say that because that's how old I am. I'm wishful thinking, but
let's see. Bochy is 70.
okay.
So
He's a real youngster.
Yeah. I gave him 2 years too many, but
It's
yeah,
okay.
70 years.
Look, he's had a hard life. Even years though, usually only in the even years did his teams win the World Championship. So we're in an odd year.
Well, they won it in 2023.
Yeah, good point.
So
So
I
much
guess
for
it's-
that.
I guess it's the odd
Not a
years.
very reliable stat to put your gambling on. All right, so let's segue into the NBA.
Yeah.
What happened to the Nuggets? And I guess they were just Aaron Gordon wasn't right, and they just had a lot of injuries and
I think it was just that uphill battle, and then just going up against
a younger, deeper
Mm-hmm.
team.
OKC has just been phenomenal at home, and that showed. I mean, they won by what, 30+ points? I think 35,
It was
36.
40 at one point.
Yeah.
Caruso, he got player of the game. That was kind of cool. I mean, he's a scrappy, what is he, 6'1", 6 feet maybe? And he's guarding Jokic out there and Jokic, the Joker. It's like he's swatting a fly, but man, he was a major pest. He had a lot of numbers, and was he their backup point guard?
Yes.
Okay, and so now you have a great matchup. You have OKC and Minnesota. What do you see there?
I see, this is back to
Ant-Man and
SGA.
SGA, yeah.
Going with the initials again there. But I see this going, how can, Minnesota handle
And game one tonight?
game one is tonight there.
So, yeah, quick turnaround for OKC. So, again, your rest versus rust.
where
gonna come
Minnesota's
into play.
been, ready
Sitting around.
for a couple.
Since they eliminated Golden State fairly easily without Seth Curry. But yeah. So what do you see any
I think
sweep,
it's going to.
gentleman sweep? Or
I
at
think
least
this goes 6. I see this going 6, and then we'll
Okay.
talk about the next series in a second.
Well, who do
there,
you
but,
like?
I'm going to go with OKC in 6 there. I think,
Okay.
with Minnesota, it's just going to come down with Julius Randle. I think if he's been playing very great
Yeah.
in the postseason there, and
All right, I'll
he's
say Minnesota in 6. Just
Okay.
to keep things interesting.
I think this is going to be a huge game there for Minnesota if they want to. They got to get a game here in OKC. You want to at least have the series, 1-1 before you go back to Minnesota. If they're down in the whole 0-2, it's going to be kind of hard for them to come back there, especially with,
Yeah.
like I said, OKC's home record there.
Anytime you can go in and win that first game on the road, you really feel like you did something because the home court advantage is now yours.
Yeah, and that's what we saw.
And
in-
especially they got to be thinking the same thing. OKC's going to be tired. Let's get right on them and win that opening game. And that would be a great start for the T-Wolves as well. What about in the East?
Yeah, I think in the,
I say Pacers in 6. I'm throwing it out there.
I'm going to go Pacers in 7 there. I think, this is, I think, going to be a back and forth, style of a series there.
Yeah, what a
because-
couple of veteran coaches too. Think about it, Rick Carlisle and Tom Thibodeau. Yeah, they've both been around for a long time.
Yeah, journeyman then too. They've been with Rick with Dallas.
You got the whole Villanova thing with the Knicks, and then Tyrese Halliburton. He's been a game changer for the Pacers.
Absolutely.
And they got a backup point guard, former Sixer.
I see this series being
Dave McConnell.
how the
TJ.
Pacers rely on their depth and that kind of wears on the opponents. I think that could play to the hands with the Pacers there, but with New York, how do they go with Cat and then Bridges? I mean, they had some big plays with blocks against the Celtics, and how they were able to come back from big deficits then as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting conversation. Because we've watched a lot of high school basketball, and some coaches are notorious for only going 7 deep. So if you're the third guy on the bench, you might as well be the 30th guy on the bench.
Basically,
But at the highest level, and J.J. Redick took a lot of heat for this because he left his starting 5 in it. Was it just for the whole fourth quarter
I think the whole
or the whole second half?
It was either the majority of the second half or all of the fourth quarter.
All of the fourth quarter, I'm pretty sure. And of course, when it doesn't work out, people are always going to second guess you.
Ridicule your decisions.
Yeah, but I
and all
mean,
that there.
a lot of coaches will put that second unit in, maybe the first 4 minutes of the fourth quarter, and then all stops out for the final 8. Well, you think the starting unit included LeBron, and he was 40 years old. So he left himself open for criticism. I don't think, did we ever put him in the hot seat?
I think we did a few times there, over the. Well, I think maybe one time in the postseason, but I know we put J.J. Redick and the Lakers on the hot seat
Earlier in the year.
earlier in
They
the
were-
season. I think in
That
November
turned-
or something
That turned
like
our
that.
season
There.
around,
Yeah.
as is so often the case. We have that kind of power.
So who do you think is the X factor in the Pacers Knicks series there?
I love Josh Hart as an X factor type, like triple double kind of guy. Might have 10, 10, and 10, make a key steal for you down the stretch. For the Pacers, I mean T.J. McConnell, I guess because he's a former Sixer, he's capable of giving the Pacers the same kind of lift as occurred on Sunday when. The big lift was provided off the bench by OKC. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
I mean, these two teams played each other last year in the second round, and the Pacers won in 7. So I see this just going back and forth, and
Yeah, I mean, the Pacers had a so-so regular season.
50 and 32, and just almost the same as what the Knicks were, 51 and 31.
Yeah, but
So-
just look the way they knocked out the Celtics with relative ease.
Well, I wouldn't say with relatively ease. When you're down by 20, to the games.
Well, that's
there,
true, but
yeah.
I mean, to be able to do that, interesting. So, WNBA has started, and I mean, it's way too early, but Caitlin Clark, she's going to get MVP consideration this year. It sounds like she's off to a great start.
Yeah, they were playing the
They won their
Chicago.
opener. Yeah, the Sky. Yeah.
And, right now, let me see here with some scores. Because we got Golden State, that's the new team in the league there.
Valkyries.
The Valkyrie. And speaking of Indiana, I think all the way from now until like next week, the Fever and the Pacers are playing like every other, when one's not playing, the other is playing. So, the city of Indiana
Yeah.
is definitely going to love their basketball because it's going to be happening a lot in the coming
And,
days there.
Paige Beckers had her opening game. So it's a quick turnaround. They just win the national championship, and then, 6 weeks later, she's playing in the WNBA?
Mm-hmm.
She got into, well, I guess it was Caitlin Clark got into another dust-up with Angel Reese, was that?
I didn't really see too much of that. I heard about that on the sports outlets there. I think we forgot to do the Shining Stars.
Let's talk about that, because I had Lily Carlson going 14 feet, Mick Abel for the Phillies. Who else do you want to put in there?
I'm going to go with the golf. I'm going to go with the PGA Championship and Scotty Scheffler getting his third career now.
He is dominating the tour when everything's right for him, like nobody has maybe since Tiger Woods.
Mm-hmm.
And he's popular too. I mean, he doesn't have this LIV issue with a lot of fans are not embracing the DeChambeaus, the Koepkas of the game.
The Roms yeah.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, going into Sunday, he had a 3-shot lead. It looks, everybody's like, well, just put his name on the trophy. He's got this, sewed up, and he was struggling in the front 9. He was, I believe, 2 over, and he was just struggling. And at one point, Rom and Scotty were tied at 9 under, and that's when Rom just kind of collapsed, and Scotty wins
To
by
the
5.
delight of the fans, I'm sure.
Scotty wins by 5 shots. I mean, it's just unbelievable of what he was doing, in the closing holes there, and now he is 8-0.
So he has 3 majors, He's got a Masters
got
this
a-
year and a
yep.
PGA, so what's his other one?
So he's got two Masters. He's got this
And
one
a
for the
PGA,
PGA
okay.
Championship there. So the two that he
Needs
does
the
not,
British and the US Open.
which the U.S. Open is next month, and then the Open is in July. So there's a possibility that he could get the Grand Slam this year. You know, the way things are going.
Is that called a Tiger Slam if you get them all in the same year? Has anybody done that?
That is well, when Tiger got his, it was
Was it
not like
carryover?
it was
like,
a carryover there with I believe it was the Masters there. So
Nobody's ever done it in one tour season.
I think one has. I have to
Bobby
look.
Jones maybe, or you go back a long way perhaps. I don't know.
But I mean, just the way he's been, golfing and just going about, because he hasn't won a lot in the tour this year. Some people's like, well, he's doing good, but he's not winning. But then the way he went out and just dominate, getting eagles and birdies and just how there's nobody else near him, and they're just falling, and he was
They're
just
battling for second place, as they say.
So
Well,
you see
yeah.
what happens, and there's some people saying, when is he going to get not just if he will get it, but just when he will achieve the feat of the Grand Slam there. It wouldn't shock me if he gets it like in 2028 or 20.
He's right now, he's the top player in the game, no question about it.
And then we had the horse race. We forgot to talk about that last Tuesday, but Journalism won. It was going.
So, journalism did what in the Derby? Third?
Journalism came in third.
Okay.
Third place
In the
there.
First place at Pimlico, in the Preakness. Yeah, but there's no chance at the Triple Crown. That takes a lot of luster off.
Yeah, and the one that won the Kentucky Derby was not in the race because the quick turnaround.
Yeah.
So see what happens at the Belmont there, but it kind of loses its luster there because it's not going for the crown there. So and for the local. Let's see here. Other notes there that we have, or the NFL schedule. We haven't talked about that there. Anything that kind of caught your eye on the release of the schedule there, or?
Well, I think the Eagles have the toughest schedule. That's the way it's supposed to be. They'll still probably be favored in every game. I don't know. Can the Chiefs turn it around? They got to play the Chiefs. They got to play the Bills. You name it. The best teams in the NFC Central or North rather. I mean, they got the Lions and the Vikings and the Packers and you name it. Again, the Eagles are going to be playing them. So that's why it's so tough to repeat. Mm-hmm. So hats off to Andy Reid and the Chiefs that they did it. They didn't get the three-peat, but they got a back-to-back.
Mm-hmm. And you look at that division in the NFC East, there has not been a repeat winner in 20 years. So
Yeah, you got the Commanders. They're hungry.
Yep.
They love to turn the tables. I don't see Dallas. I mean, getting Pickens is not the kind of move that the Cowboy Nation probably gets excited about. Do you
It's
think?
kind of like a lukewarm,
I saw Antonio Brown was in the news again, apparently under suspicion for some non-football related activity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, but do you see? I mean, I guess they get Dak Prescott back, but is he a top 10 quarterback in the NFL?
the way that other quarterbacks been playing in the league there, I think he's either, at the back end of the top 10 or,
Yeah.
maybe 11 or 12 there. But, just the caliber of how other quarterbacks have been playing, I think he just kind of went down a notch or two there. So, but you look
The
at
Cleveland Browns, what an interesting quarterback room they have. With Deshaun Watson,
yeah,
will he ever play again as a Brown? Who knows?
I say it's very
You got Joe
unlikely
Flacco,
there.
a hero for a year, then he get back to the Colts, and then or
Kenny
to the
Pickett
Colts
and-
back, and Kenny Wilson Pickett, and
Gabriel and then Shador.
Sanders. So,
So-
it's a crowded room.
I don't think they're going to go with 4 quarterbacks.
No.
One of them's going to get cut.
Yeah.
It'll probably be either Kenny Pickett or
They'll have trade
Flacco
value.
there, or I don't think Flacco has any trade value though.
No, no, but Pickett might. Somebody might.
There could be a potential. Team cuts and then they look at another quarterback there. So,
Or Sanders. I mean, who knows?
but yeah, looking at the Eagles' schedule there, they go up against the Cowboys. That's anytime you play a divisional foe, that's always going to be a tough game there. And then you don't have to wait too long for the Super Bowl rematch there, and that's week
Week
2.
2.
So, over the last couple years, it seems like the Chiefs and the Eagles were the last teams to have a loss. So, one of these teams are going to have a loss week 2 there, and
Could be a tie.
yeah, or a tie. That's always a possibility there. And
One of the few leagues where you can still have a tie. I guess hockey, soccer.
yeah, it's not too many out there. And you look at the way they end their season. The Commanders. Commanders, Bills, Commanders. I mean, that's
Is Zach Ertz going to play another year for them? I think I heard he was going to play another year.
seems kind of questionable, but it won't shock me if he comes back for another season. there.
12 catches in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, he was
They still
stellar.
lost, but yeah.
Some of it was in garbage time there,
Yeah,
but yeah.
some of it, but I don't think he dropped a pass either. He was always a great Eagle, so. Well, listen, what else? We've covered a lot of ground, talked a lot of different sports. We didn't get any racing results tonight.
Maybe next week.
Yeah, maybe. Boxing, anything to report in that realm?
I'm not too sure with the boxing realm there. That's not in my
That's not.
my
yeah,
wheelhouse
we need
of.
some- Maybe CM Punk will have some news on trivia. You're playing tonight?
I'm hoping, yeah.
And all
I might
you-
be the only panelist there, so
That improves your chances considerably.
might be the best panelist tonight there.
You
so,
might be the
yeah.
number 1 guy. Well, listen, everybody, thanks for tuning in to another edition of Sports Chat. Special thanks to Sean Garrett in the control room, pushing all the right buttons as always. And trivia starts in about 15 minutes, so please join us. I'm Jeff Cook. He's Corey Smith. We'll see you next Tuesday and every Tuesday here on Sports Chat. Good night, everybody. Mahalo.